boys and girls, welcome back to another week of STEAM lessons. We are talking all about ecosystems and especially about pollinators and the plants that we know are so important to make our ecosystems work. So we are going to be reading a book today called What If There Were No Bees? This is a book about the grassland ecosystem, which we kind of looked at last week, but we're going to look at it even closer to see what would happen if there were no bees in this ecosystem.
What If There Were No Bees? A book about the grassland ecosystem by Suzanne Slade, illustrated by Carole Shwartz. Don't be fooled by a bee's size. It's tiny compared to the foxes, skunks, and owls that share its grassland home. But bees do the work of giants. Bees spend countless hours darting from flower to flower to collect pollen and nectar. Grassland plants, animals, and insects are tied to one another by food chains. Bees, as well as other living things, belong to several chains. Many food chains are connected by one plant or animal to create larger food webs. So look at the bee and look at all the arrows that are coming from the bee and going to other animals. Flowers are a bee's best friend. They're often filled with a sweet liquid called nectar. Bees sip nectar to keep up their energy. Honeybees also use nectar to make honey. As bees collect nectar, tiny pieces of pollen stick to their furry legs. When bees visit other flowers, the pollen falls off. Flowering plants need pollens to create seeds and fruit. This process is called pollination. As bees fly around to collect food, they face many dangers. Spiders, birds, toads, and other hungry predators hunt these hard-working insects. Pollution and some of the pesticides farmers use to protect their crops can also hurt bees. Mice often make unwelcome nests in honeybee boxes. While the mice aren't dangerous to the bees, they do damage to the boxes and the bees' honeycomb. The smell of mouse droppings may cause the bees to leave their hive for good. What would happen if bees became extinct? If there were no bees, farmers near grasslands would have a lot of trouble growing crops. Farmers need bees, especially honeybees, to help pollinate their fruit and nut trees. Apple, cherry, plum, and avocado trees would produce less fruit or none at all without bees. Almonds and macadamia nut trees would produce less too. Fields of strawberry plants wouldn't be able to produce fruit. Neither would blueberry plants. Without bees, there would be fewer carrots, onions, and other vegetables. Bees are major pollinators of many fruit and vegetable crops. Grassland wildflowers and other plants couldn't make seeds without bees. Flowering bushes in nearby forests couldn't grow berries for birds. Soon, many mice, squirrels, and other small animals would not have enough food to survive. Honeybees make honey from the nectar they collect. Bears, skunks, mice, and ants love the sweet honey. It's an important food source for them. Without honey, these animals and many others would suffer. Without bees, grasslands and nearby farms and forests would become quieter, less colorful places. No flowering plants blanketing the wide open fields, fewer truckloads of fresh fruits and vegetables, no bright berries or crunchy seeds for the forest animals to eat. What would happen if bees became extinct? All kinds of things. The loss of one small creature, even as small as the bee, can have a huge effect on the ecosystems of our world. Today, scientists are studying bees closely to learn how to keep them safe and healthy. Farmers are finding new ways to control pests. All the hard work should mean that more bees are buzzing around in the future. If you look at the map, all of the yellow areas are different grasslands in the world. So all of those areas depend on bees to help them grow their plants and provide food for the animals and the people that live there. So you can see bees are really important.
We just read about how important bees are to the ecosystem, not just because they're food for other animals, but because they help the flowers grow more seeds and grow fruit. So, how do they actually do that? Well, we read a little bit that when they stop to drink up the nectar that they like to eat for themselves, they're also picking up something called pollen. Well, pollen is what helps the plants grow more seeds or fruit. So to get pollen, or to grow those things, they need to get pollen from other plants. We just read about how important bees are to the grassland ecosystem, not just because they provide food for other animals, but because they help the plants with their pollen distribution. So what is pollen? Pollen is what plants use to grow seeds and to grow fruit. So if plants don't have that, then they don't get to grow more seeds, which means there will be no more plants and no more fruit. Well, plants already have some pollen, but they need pollen from other plants to be able to grow the seeds and fruit. So what bees do is they stop to get their drink of nectar for themselves, and then that pollen attaches to their legs, and then they stop at another flower and the pollen kind of shakes itself off. And so the bees are actually moving the pollen from plant to plant so that they can grow seeds and fruit. So what we're going to do today is we are going to pretend that we are bees and we are going to collect pollen. So I have some pipe cleaners here and I'm going to wrap them around my finger to kind of pretend that I'm a bee. So just for fun, I'm going to wrap one around just to be the antenna of the bee. And then I'm going to wrap another one around to kind of be the legs. So my bee is going to be purple and orange, which is pretty fun, I think. So I'm making sure that a side is pointing down, and then I'm wrapping it around and another side is pointing down. So now my finger is just like a little bee. So I can buzz it around. And this purple flower looks like it has the nectar that I would like to drink. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drink some of that nectar. And oh, can you see what's happened here? Some of the pollen has attached to my legs, but also to my body because it's kind of fuzzy. And then I'm going to fly over to this blue flower and I'm going to drink some more of the nectar. What do you see has happened here? Not only did I collect more pollen, but some of the pollen from the first flower ended up in the pollen of the second flower. So now this flower is going to be able to use that pollen from the purple flower to make its very own seeds so that more plants can grow, or it might grow some fruit. Your challenge this week is to make your very own insect and practice pollinating flowers. So you can make your insect on your finger like I did, or you can make it on a stick. You can do whatever you want. And then you need to get some pollen. What I used for pollen was some cocoa powder and some cornstarch, but you can use anything that is kind of like a powder. So anything that would be able to be picked up by a pipe cleaner. Then I would like you to act out what the bee does and teach someone else about how bees are pollinators. You can take a video of that or take a picture of your setup and send it to your teacher, and she will send it to me. See you next time.